Good morning once again from the CNN Center. This is special coverage continuing in America's new war. I'm Carol Lynn.
And I'm Leon Harris. Good morning, folks. We have got a ton of information for you this morning. You're looking at a live picture there you see of Ground Zero in New York. We've got the latest on the investigation. A live report coming from Pakistan on the pressure on Afghanistan to turn over Osama bin Laden. And we have this.
And we just dropped to the bottom, to the ground and just hope that, that we'd live.
Now, before she got to that point, she had to survive an elevator drop and then squeeze through a tiny opening. Hear her entire story coming up. Also this.
I think at this point, anything is better than this horrible uncertainty and nothingness that people are going through right now.
Getting down to the horrible, grisly business of identifying the dead. Now, this is the day that New Yorkers are going to head back to work. Most of the city's subways are open, and the rescue work, the cleanup, that has not stopped one bit.
Also on this day, an awful lot of people are turning their eyes to Wall Street and to the turbines that drive the world's largest economy. Here are the latest developments there. The New York Stock Exchange opens 4.5 hours from now at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. The latest statistics from the World Trade Center site right now, 4,957 missing. 190 confirmed dead.
Now, on the investigative front, 2 new arrest warrants have been issued for material witnesses. The warrants are sealed, so there aren't any details available on that, but we are still trying to find out. And in Afghanistan, a high-level delegation from Pakistan has a message from Washington for the ruling Taliban. Hand over suspected terrorist Osama bin Laden or face the consequences. Now, we will get to the economy in just a moment, but first let's go to New York and get the latest from there. CNN's Alessio Vinci is at the site overlooking the rubble from the attacks. Good morning, Alessio.
Good morning, Leon. Well, I would like to give you some good news that perhaps somebody could have been found alive, but however, it's another night of deep searches into the rubble, but so far the firefighters or the rescue workers have not pulled anybody alive. However, the officials here continue to call the rescue operation a search and rescue operation because they say that there is still a slim possibility that underneath the big rubble there might be somebody alive. As you can see from these pictures behind me that we can provide you live, this is the building number 7. This is one of the buildings that made the World Trade Center. It is a huge, big pile of rubble, as you can see, still smoldering. There is still fire, making the rescue operation for the firefighters and the rescue workers extremely dangerous and, of course, extremely difficult. We know that, for example, last night, overnight, one of the dogs used by the firefighters to locate some of the people inside the rubble has died because of the heat exhaustion. Just to give you a sense a little bit about how really difficult the conditions of the rescue operations are underneath the rubble over there. Back to you, Leon.
All right, Alessio Vinci, we thank you. We'll get back to you in just a bit. Carol, over to you.
Leon, right now, let's turn to the U.S. markets. This is the longest time since the Great Depression that the American exchanges have halted trading. The opening bell will ring, followed by 2 minutes of silence at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And thousands of workers on Wall Street will be given paper face masks to protect them from dust and debris from Ground Zero, where the World Trade Center once stood. The New York Mercantile Exchange, also just a few blocks from the rubble area, reopens today with shortened trading hours. And the New York Board of Trade at 4 World Trade Center was destroyed. But trading resumes today at a backup facility on Long Island. Weekend tests at the NASDAQ also were done, and officials there report more than 2,400 of the 2,700 servers are operational. Investors are said to be nervous, naturally, but eager for this market to open. It is just about impossible to get to the New York Stock Exchange without being aware of the rubble site in Lower Manhattan. There, a live picture this morning. So what can investors expect today? Well, here is what one market analyst says about investors with mutual funds and what we might expect in trading.
The markets may open up down, but I have to tell you, over the long run, I think I wouldn't be surprised if I saw the markets end up tomorrow up. But people don't invest just for one day. They invest for the long run. So be very careful here. Tomorrow, the markets are not made forever. Those people out there that have mutual funds should be just a little careful. They should remember, even if they placed an order to sell at 9 o'clock, they get the closing day price that day. So I would just sit back and wait. Doesn't matter if you place an order at 9:30, at 10:30, at 11:30. The truth is, even if you waited till 12, you'd get the same price. But be careful here, because I think in the long run, 1 year from now, we will be better off than we would have been if this never had happened.
A lot of people are worried about the markets. A CNN USA Today Gallup poll is reflecting that. More than a third of Americans have less confidence in the nation's economy as a result of the terrorist attacks. But there is a silver lining in the numbers here. Still, nearly half of those asked say that the attacks have not changed their views, and their positive ratings of the economy have actually increased since last weekend. Now, only about 1 in 10 say that they are less likely to invest in the stock market. That is a great sign, and as another sign of optimism, another 1 in 10 say that they are now more likely to buy stocks when trading opens. Not a sense yet that that optimism is spreading everywhere. A lot of men and women along Wall Street are hard at work getting ready for the market's first business day since the attack on New York. Preparations are now underway not only at the stock exchanges, but at supporting businesses as well. CNN Financial News correspondent Bruce Francis has that story.
Nick Liberatos usually serves up hundreds of breakfasts at this coffee shop just 3 blocks away from the NYSE. But as the traders he caters to get back to work, he and his employees will be cleaning up $20,000 worth of rotting food.
I don't know when I can have supplies delivered to the store, like milk, bread, produce. Nobody can come in. So we don't know what to do, and we don't know when we could open.
Although much of the financial district is open to a surprising amount of foot traffic, security is tight in the immediate vicinity of the exchange.
That's my two-wall building pass, but here's my driver's license.
The New York Stock Exchange continued its second day of testing. Several firms, including the nation's largest broker, Merrill Lynch, have had to relocate to buildings outside of the financial district. The NYSE says that computer and communications inside the exchange are working fine, as are key links between members. The neighborhood's workers are hanging tough.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared, but I'm certain that we'll get through.
America is strong and we will do the best. I'm 100% for that.
I'm confident. I'm not afraid.
Wall Street's reopening will also be a major test for the city's transportation systems. Subways will be open, but key lines will be moving much more slowly.
The Holland Tunnel, a major Hudson River crossing, is still closed, and so are major commuter trains from New Jersey, which used to stop at the World Trade Center. Bruce Francis, CNN Financial News, New York.
Well, investors were clearly feeling very different from each other in Asia as well as on the European exchanges. We have global coverage of markets. Richard Quest is in London and Dalton Tananaka in Hong Kong. First, we go to Richard in London. Richard, can we see any signs of optimism in the European markets today?
I'm afraid not. The opening bells or the trading began in Europe. There was an initial, perhaps, sign of some optimism in Paris, but looking at the latest numbers, Carol, the French market down 2.5%, the Swiss market similarly down, London's down, Germany's down. This follows on from what we saw on Friday when there were sharp falls. Substantially, everybody is looking to the United States and to the New York markets for when they reopen. And what we're seeing is a classic traditional flight to certain stocks. It sounds odd, I know, but tobacco stocks, defence stocks, food, oil companies, those are the sort that are just showing some gains. Everything else is down quite heavily, I'm afraid.
Richard, did the European exchanges make any extraordinary measures to try to calm the markets? Here in the United States, government officials are asking for a bit of patriotism, a bit of calm, asking people to stay put, if only in the name of supporting American business.
There's a lot of comments from government officials. Putting it bluntly, stock market officials have been few and far between making any such comments. The idea of a patriotic rally buying the market to try and underpin it. We know, for example, that Warren Buffett in the US has said he's not going to be a seller and may even be a buyer. So far, we've seen nothing of that sort of mood in Europe. Everybody is shell-shocked. They're wondering what to do. But it's almost as if they've lost their guidance. They've lost their flashlight. They don't know which way to turn because New York is such an important part. And what we've seen is even trans-European trading or Europe to Asia trading has been very muted. What we know, of course, and agreeing with what we were hearing earlier, is that it's probably a foolish person that sells into this market at the moment, because the first and the second day will not be the way the market's looking by the end of the week.
All right. Well, all eyes on Wall Street today. Thank you very much, Richard Quest, reporting from London. And now we go to Dalton Tananaka in Hong Kong. Dalton, it seems like Asian investors are speaking loud and clear today.
Yeah, you know, they had problems of their own going into this, and now last week's attacks, all major Asian stock markets this trading day to open Asia's trading week fell steeply ahead of New York's reopening, with, as you might expect, airline and insurance stocks taking the biggest falls. Quick run through, Tokyo's Nikkei tumbled another 5%, closing at its lowest point in 17 years, but several exporters came off their worst levels of the day after the Bank of Japan stepped in to stop the yen's rise on the dollar, the Japanese currency settling at 117.50. Hong Kong didn't fare much better. It's the worst performing market in Asia so far this year. The Hang Seng closing nearly 3.5% lower to begin the trading week. Seoul's Kospi dropped to its lowest close since December 98. The tech-heavy Kosdaq tumbled 8% as hopes fade for a recovery in the global IT sector. And Australia's S&P ASX 200 slipped 4.7% to a 17-month low as investors price in a fall of as much as 10% in New York when trading resumes. Now, Asia's biggest economy is already struggling with its own domestic problems. Tokyo economists say the attacks will hurt the few sectors that had been strong, such as exporting car makers.
Inevitably, this kind of major event and tragic event is likely to alter consumer spending in the US, and probably car sales are likely to suffer. So Japanese car manufacturers are probably those which are going to suffer most.
Taiwan markets are closed due to a typhoon. Pakistan's markets, as you might expect, didn't trade and won't for 3 days. Back to you and Carol and Leon in the U.S.
All right. Thank you very much, Dalton, live from Hong Kong. Of course, we're going to have much more coverage here in the United States of Wall Street's first day back. It is still ahead, and you can look forward to this. New York Stock Exchange Chairman Richard Grasso is going to join us live during our 8 o'clock Eastern hour this morning. And then we'll interview U.S. Secretary Paul O'Neill live during our 2 o'clock Eastern hour this afternoon. That is right here on CNN.
And we should add the Treasury Secretary is going to be ringing the bell on the New York Stock Exchange this morning to get trading going. Now, let's go. Speaking of the administration and figures in it, let's check in now with our Major Garrett, who's at the White House this morning. He's got the latest developments for us there. Major, we understand President Bush is going to be meeting with his national security team and his economic team today.
Yes, Leon, there have been several stages of response from the Bush administration since the terrorist attacks on Tuesday. The first couple of days, of course, dealing with the president's security, dealing with managing the crisis, then much deeper and active involvement in diplomacy, reviewing military lists. Of course, all of that work continues on, but the White House sees that are at a significant transition point now. Coming this first Monday, the New York Stock Exchange is opening. Children are going back to school by the millions after having their school week disrupted. Many Americans are going back to work on a full week cycle. And the administration wants to send a signal of reassurance to the public that we do need, the country needs, to get back to some degree of normality, at least get back to some of the routines so important in American life. But the administration knows that's a very difficult thing when it acknowledges openly that there still could be domestic terrorism threats here, that states and governments have to be on the lookout for biological or chemical terrorist attacks. They know there is tremendous anxiety, so the president is trying to do his level best to reassure the country that things will get better. He returned from Camp David on Sunday to the White House, Sunday afternoon, and he spent a few moments talking to reporters with the First Lady Laura Bush along his side. And one reporter asked the president if he was fearful at all that the U.S. economy, which had already been struggling, might in fact tip into recession as a result of the economic downturn that could be triggered by the Tuesday terrorist attacks. Here's what the president said.
People will be amazed at how quickly we rebuild New York. How quickly people come together to really wipe away the rubble and show the world that we're still the strongest nation in the world. But I have great faith in the resiliency of the economy, and no question about it, this incident affected our economy, But the markets open tomorrow, people go back to work, and we'll show the world.
Bush administration very much hopeful that the U.S. markets will show the world that there is a rock to be found in the United States, a rock of stability, economic stability. All of our reports this morning about jittery markets in Asia, jittery markets in Europe. The Bush administration is very hopeful that if not on the upside, at least if the markets in the United States are on the downside, they are only nominally so. Bush White House will have to monitor that closely and react as events dictate. There is a new CNN USA Today Gallup poll that places the president at his highest level of approval of 86%, only 10% disapproval. That's the political environment the president and his national security, diplomatic, and economic team find themselves in. We can compare that with other presidents at key moments in their administrations. You can see Dwight David Eisenhower, December 1956, 79%. Lyndon Johnson, 78%, right after the assassination of President Kennedy. President Jimmy Carter, March 1977, 75%. President Reagan, 1986, 68%. Of course, President Bush's father, George Herbert Walker Bush, February 1991, 89%. That would be right after the culmination of the victory in the Gulf War. President Clinton, 1998, 73%. President Bush topping some of those numbers, 86%, only 10% disapproval. Tremendous unified support. White House acutely aware of that. But as it relates to whatever military action it may take, it is trying to channel that public support, maybe spread it out over the long term, because as the president and every senior advisor who fanned out on the Sunday talk shows told the country, this will be a long and sustained campaign, no quick fixes. So the administration hopes it can take that very visible public support, channel it not only for now, but for the days and weeks and months ahead. Leon?
All right, thank you very much. Major Garrett in Washington this morning. We'll be talking with you quite a bit in the hours ahead. Carol, over to you.
Leon, we have more now on this criminal investigation. There have been 2 new arrest warrants issued for what investigators are calling material witnesses to the terrorist attacks on New York and Washington. And the FBI is looking for clues at apartments in Florida and New Jersey. But as CNN's Mike Betcher reports, the big manhunt is for an elusive worldwide terrorist.
The FBI was back at this apartment house in South Florida, taking away evidence. It's believed to be the residence of Saeed Al-Ghamdi, one of the suspected hijackers on United Flight 93. At least one other hijacker on the same flight may have lived in the same building. All over the country, leads are being pursued. 2 more arrests for material witnesses were issued. 2 people are already in custody. And in New Jersey, just across the river from New York, another apartment was searched. This one was the residence of one, possibly both men, picked up off an Amtrak train, allegedly carrying cash, airline tickets, and box cutters. But the top of the most wanted list has not changed and will not, according to U.S. officials. But the effort to add suspect names after Osama bin Laden is accelerating both in the U.S. and internationally.
He headed it up and organized it, but it's a very broad, kind of loose coalition of groupings. It includes not only his forces, but it also includes, for example, Islamic Jihad from Egypt.
Members of Egyptian Islamic Jihad filled the top ranks of bin Laden's al-Qaeda organization. Islamic Jihad's leader, Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, was at bin Laden's side during this 1998 press conference. Widely considered bin Laden's chief lieutenant, Zawahiri is also his personal doctor. Like bin Laden, he's believed to be in Afghanistan. Bin Laden denied he was responsible in a statement released Sunday through an Arabic-language satellite news channel. As for me, I have been living in the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan and following its leader's rules, he said. The current leader does not allow me to exercise such operations.
He's a prime suspect, but we have to be realistic. This is not a person. That's the problem. It is a whole host of people and a whole host of countries that are harboring those people.
The head U.S. officials are sure of, bin Laden, but hidden under the cloak of al-Qaeda's mastermind, a complex organization, harder to identify, and just as their leader, elusive. Mike Betcher, CNN, Atlanta.
Afghanistan's neighbor Pakistan is now issuing an ultimatum to Osama bin Laden and the Taliban, which is harboring him in Afghanistan. CNN's Mike Chenoy has more on this interesting message, Mike.
That's right, Carol. The message is coming from the top officials of Pakistan's military intelligence service. This is the organization that over the past half dozen years has had close links with the Taliban and indeed has been central to the Taliban's ability to come to power and stay to power in Afghanistan. But that message now is that the Taliban has only a few days in which to turn Osama bin Laden and his associates over. Otherwise, Afghanistan risks devastating attack by the United States, an attack in which Pakistan would support the United States. That message is being conveyed in meetings in the southern Afghan city of Kandahar. That's the usual base of the Taliban leadership. However, Pakistan's foreign minister says that his country has limited influence with the Taliban despite the close links of recent years.
Well, Pakistan has always sought to give correct counsel. We have always emphasized in the past that it is important for Afghanistan and its people that the government should act in conformity with international law. Of course, the assumption that Pakistan is in a position to exercise complete influence is flawed in our opinion. We have constantly pointed out to our friends that we have diplomatic relations, but that doesn't necessarily translate into great influence.
All the indications so far are that the Taliban leadership will rebuff the Pakistani message, and increasingly, therefore, attention is going to turn to what kind of military action will likely follow. There is word here that Pakistan is expecting a high-level interagency delegation from the United States of diplomats, military, and intelligence officials in the next few days to discuss those options as Pakistan seeks to strengthen its cooperation with the United States.
The discussions that we have held with the government of the United States deal with principles in general. Pakistan will extend full cooperation in the fight against terrorism. As for the specifics, we expect consultations, and we understand from the news that a group of high-level officials from the United States will be visiting Pakistan in the near future. We would like also to know the plan that the United States has in mind, and then we will discuss what and to what extent Pakistan can be a partner in the fight against terrorism.
Those specifics will likely include access by U.S. aircraft to Pakistani airspace, logistical support, certainly intelligence sharing. The Pakistani intelligence service probably knows more about the Taliban and has had more contact with them than any other outside organization in recent years. It may also eventually involve stationing of U.S. troops here in Pakistan, at least as a staging ground if they were to go into Afghanistan. That has raised some concerns in this overwhelmingly Islamic country where there is a substantial body of opinion, particularly among Islamic fundamentalist circles, highly critical of the government's move to side with the U.S. There were demonstrations in several cities on Sunday by Islamic fundamentalists criticizing President Musharraf for his stand allying himself with the U.S. and warning that if that cooperation proceeds further in the days and weeks ahead, that there could well be trouble on the streets for Pakistan's government. Carol?
Mike, and is it true or is it not true that some of these Islamic fundamentalists inside of Pakistan are actually suspected of working with Osama bin Laden and helping him train some of his troops?
Well, the links with bin Laden are always very shadowy, but there is no question that some of the Islamic fundamentalist groups in Pakistan have long-standing religious and organizational ties with the Taliban. There is a network of Islamic religious schools dotted around Pakistan run by these Pakistani Islamic fundamentalist groups that have trained many key officials in the Taliban and have trained as well many young Pakistanis who have crossed the border and fought with Taliban forces in Afghanistan's ongoing civil war. So there are long-standing religious, political, and military links between some of the Islamic fundamentalists here and the Taliban. To what extent those links extend to Osama bin Laden's own organization remains a very, very murky question.
Murky indeed. indeed. All right. Thank you very much, Mike Chinoy, reporting live. Leon?
And while General Musharraf and Pakistan in general find itself now in this situation being between a rock and a hard place, we find that Afghanistan, that country, is now under a cloud of fear as that nation is bracing for a possible strike by the U.S. But as CNN's Nick Robertson says, if push does come to shove, there is also a grim determination to support the ruling Taliban.
Bustling trade in Afghanistan's street markets belies an impending sense of isolation beginning to grip many Afghans. Concerns about the likelihood of an American attack and the possibility borders with Pakistan and Iran may close have driven food prices up 10 to 15%. Concern also Afghan people could become innocent victims. They should wait until it's clear Osama was involved, this vendor says. America shouldn't make any attack on Afghanistan, this trader says, because the Afghan people are not involved and not responsible. Many here, however, are too poor to flee the cities. 22 years of conflict has ruined infrastructure and economy alike. The years of war have also built up a resilience among many Afghans, to the point where a new attack would be a continuation of their ongoing battles. The result of Russian aggression was the breaking of Russia into 16 countries, this old man says, remembering the 1980s Soviet occupation. If America attacks us, Allah will divide America into 52 pieces. From influential tribal elders, not necessarily aligned with the Taliban, however, a call for diplomacy.
We advise the Taliban that they must discuss everything with everyone and not close the doors to negotiation.
However, the tribal elders also said if Afghanistan is attacked, they will back the Taliban to the end, a sentiment echoed on the streets here. As the last of the international aid workers began leaving because the Taliban said they could no longer guarantee their safety, Afghanistan's total isolation appears now closer than ever. Nick Robertson, CNN, Kabul, Afghanistan.
There is so much uncertainty these days and lots of opinions out there in terms of what is to come and the American mood and the American appetite for some retaliation and who's going to help or not. In taking a look at some of the major newspapers this morning, this from the Chicago Tribune editorial section says Pakistan is a fragile government in a bad neighborhood. It will have more capacity to help us if we recognize that helping us can't be its only concern.
All right, check this out. We got this from the New York Times this morning. It says that in the days to come, some New Yorkers will no doubt have occasion to differ with the president on the decisions he makes, both political and diplomatic, but they will do so as members of the same American family. By his actions over the last week, Mr. Bush has won the first battle of the war.
And out of the American capital, from the Washington Post, they write, so yes, life resumes today and should, even as more bodies are recovered and more funerals planned. The stock market reopens, the Pentagon bustles. There will be the usual jams on the Beltway. That's the highway outside the city. This will feel right and not right. That is our life from here on in. Well, in the midst of death and destruction surrounding last week's terror attacks, an unusual number of babies were born in New York. Finally, some good news to report. CNN's Beth Nissen reports for some parents it does symbolize a new sense of hope.
The outside walls of New York University Medical Center in Manhattan are papered with the names, descriptions, and photos of the missing. Many shown with their children, carrying them, feeding them, holding them in their first days in this world. Yet at the end of a week when thousands of lives ended, there is this small comfort, knowing that other lives have begun. Meet Nora Rose Draper, born September 15th, one of 56 babies born here since Tuesday morning.
I've just felt so good since she's been here for the first time since that day.
That day, the day the World Trade Center was attacked. The labor nurses here logged an unusually high number of births Tuesday.
22.
22 babies in 24 hours. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's a lot.
Nurses say high stress often triggers labor. It did for Lorraine Tobias. She watched the horror unfold on television all last week until Friday night.
Like it just hit me. But then that night I went into my water broke and she came.
Came 3 weeks early.
I think she just decided that it was, people needed some good news.
Little